Vel 1349. What do you think of the difference in defamation cases Majid Nawaaz brought against organizations on either side of the pond? Let me be clear. I don't believe that anybody pays out any sort of huge settlement offer because they realize that they were wrong. That doesn't happen. What happens is when an organization actually is being threatened, even if there's no case filed and they're threatened and they're actually looking into their files and realize that whoever wrote something absolutely lied, they realize that their liability potential is enormous and they'd rather cut it off now than go through multi-year lawsuit where they're going to lose. Because frankly, when people that are public officials or people in a public interest, so celebrities, politicians, and people that have the focus of the public, so even people online, YouTubers can become essentially public figures, and people that are expressing their opinions through social media can become, their ability to sue for defamation is so small. Everyday people that are not hugely popular or don't have a large audience, so they don't impact a lot of people, well, they can sue for defamation if they can prove that somebody made a false statement of fact and they were negligent in that statement. So they should have done some research, but they didn't. And so the standard, even though defamation is hard on anybody no matter what, the standard is not so high that you can't overcome it if you're an everyday person. But once you become a public figure, somebody who's expressing his opinion, somebody is, let's say, on talk shows, somebody who is always on social media, has a substantial enough following so he can impact the population, the listeners, they have to prove outright lie. So that's why a lot of times people write terrible, awful, false stories about celebrities, and the celebrities can't do anything because the chance of them winning a defamation case is very, very tiny. Unless you can prove that whoever wrote it knew that the factual statement was absolutely false. So that's what's happening here. I think that from all what I know, and I know very little about the individual, he's been fighting against radicalism for a long time, and then people characterize him as a radical, as a threat, as somebody that supports terrorism. Either they're completely ignorant of who the individual is, or they're doing so with an intention to outright lie. Again, I don't have personal knowledge of this information. It's what I understand is happening here. So I think that when it came to something like the Southern Law Poverty Center, when they paid out $3-something million, it's not because, again, he didn't sue them. It's because they looked in their files, because that's what's happened. When you are threatened, even before there's a lawsuit, the attorneys is going to start, okay, let's do an audit, actually look through everything. And they saw that whoever wrote the piece about him and included him in a list of potentially dangerous and threatening people, outright lie. It had to have been that evident. And they said, we are not going to go forward. That's the only reason. So I commend anybody that stands up for the truth. Defamations are incredibly difficult to win, but when somebody feels it's a clear lie, and there has to be knowledge behind that lie in order to perpetuate it, because if you know anything about the individual, you know that he's not Mr. A, but rather Mr. B. I think that pursuing legal actions is prudent.
When the lights are out and you stumble in the dark, you kept pushing on, but then you went too far. When your ship has sailed and all your dreams are lost, everything is wrong, you feel like it's your fault.